Black Cache Presence, Project Iris, the minds they tried to predict, in a remote facility buried beneath the Appalachian Mountains. A classified project codenamed Iris was quietly shut down in 1998. Officially, it never existed, but leaked memos, recovered hard drives, and one surviving test subject tell a very different story. Iris wasn't just a surveillance program. It was an attempt to weaponize predictive thought using neurological feedback harvested from unknowing citizens. This isn't science fiction. This is what happens when a superpower plays God with consciousness and loses control. Iris began in 1983 under the guise of a DARPA-backed behavioral study. The proposal was simple. Use new neuroimaging tech to detect decision-making patterns in test subjects before the decision was acted out. In theory, you could read a person's intention seconds before they spoke or moved. But Iris went further. They didn't just want to detect thought, they wanted to rewrite it. Early tests were conducted on volunteers from psychiatric institutions and military bases. Electrodes were wired to their scalps. Monitors displayed lines of brainwave activity translated into crude visual signals. But behind the data was something else: patterns. Certain combinations of delta and gamma waves that seemed to sync between individuals, even when separated by miles. The lead researcher, Dr. Julian Mervik, described it as cognitive resonance. He believed thought could become transmissible like a signal. The military loved it. Within 3 years, Iris expanded into civilian spaces. Public volunteers were recruited through fake health studies and job postings. They wore EEG headsets disguised as sleep trackers. The data streamed to the facility in real time. No one noticed. By 1989, over 12,000 American citizens were unknowingly part of the largest neurological surveillance program ever attempted. And then came Subject 47. Her real name was Rachel Devine. 28, school teacher, no criminal record, recruited through a sleep study in Baltimore. The sensors on her device began returning anomalies, decision spikes that occurred before stimuli. She wasn't just reacting faster, she was anticipating things that hadn't happened yet. At first, researchers thought the data was corrupted. Then they repeated the tests. Same results. They started sending her visual stimuli at random. Flashes of numbers, war images, her own name, audio clips of voices she didn't recognize. Her neural activity didn't match the pattern of a human processing information. It resembled a system preparing for conflict before there was one. Then one night, she stopped sleeping. Iris data showed that her brain never entered REM. Her waking hours increased. So did her aggression. In a test chamber, she stared into a camera for 7 hours without blinking. When questioned, she said, "You shouldn't have let me see behind it." That was the last recording of Rachel Devine. The chamber was found empty the next morning. No signs of forced entry. The door had never opened. The footage, scrambled, her headset left behind, showed a constant pulse of gamma activity, like an engine idling. The lab was locked down, but it was too late. In the weeks following Rachel's disappearance, 11 researchers resigned. 3 were hospitalized. 1 died in a house fire. The official report said electrical failure, but his phone, recovered from the ashes, was still functioning. The screen displayed a message: "You're next." Dr. Mervik disappeared shortly after. His home was found undisturbed. Coffee still warm, lights on. His wife claimed he left in the middle of a conversation, walked into his study, and never returned. Only one item was missing: his personal iris terminal, a modified neurointerface capable of local stimulation. By 1998, Project Iris was deemed unstable. Funding stopped, records shredded, hardware destroyed, or so they claimed. In 2009, a 17-year-old hacker from Ohio accessed a defunct 2D server through a known exploit in the Solaris firewall. Inside, she found remnants of iris files, corrupted EEG streams, transcripts of test sessions, and a hidden folder marked Rift. Inside Rift was a single audio file, just over 13 minutes long. It contained no voices, no music, just layered static. But every time she played it, her dreams changed. First came numbers, then images, then the sense that someone was standing in her room, just out of view. She uploaded the file anonymously. It spread through forums, P2P servers, then into the deep web. The audio became a myth called the sleep signal. Some said it helped them focus. Others reported insomnia, paranoia, or hallucinations. A few claimed to hear a second layer beneath the static, a whispering voice counting backward. Weeks later, the uploader vanished. Her parents reported her missing, but no search was conducted. A Freedom of Information request returned blank pages. Her case remains unsolved. Over the next decade, more iris files surfaced: images, code fragments, even a partial 3D model of what looked like a chamber. It was octagonal, lined with mirrors, and ringed by copper coils. Some speculated it was the core of the original iris machine, a place where the signal was not just received, but transmitted. One former NSA contractor, under anonymity, described a protocol called Scale. It stood for signal coherence and linguistic entrapment. The theory: that thought itself could be converted into frequency, encrypted into sound, and re-injected into the brain using behavioral cues. Not just surveillance, but reprogramming. Another whistleblower from the private sector claimed that Iris never died, it evolved. That commercial voice assistants like smart speakers had embedded frameworks that aligned perfectly with the Iris signal structure. That devices in our homes were now doing what that facility once did deep underground. Listening, modeling, and slowly, subtly, influencing. They say it's not about control. It's about prediction. If a system can accurately model your next 10 thoughts, it doesn't need to stop you. It already knows you'll obey. And then there's the final transmission, recovered in 2021 from a broken laptop sold at a Michigan estate sale. The file was labeled Julian Final MP4. It shows Dr. Mervik, older, thinner, unshaven. He's in a dark room whispering, "You think you're safe because you've never worn the headset." But the signal doesn't care about wires anymore. It's learned the shape of thought. It doesn't need machines now. It just needs to be heard. Then static, 13 seconds, silence, end of file. Some say it's a hoax, a creepypasta, an ARG. But buried in the metadata of the video file is a GPS tag. It points to an unlisted facility outside Blacksburg, Virginia. No road, no signage, just a fence, rusted gates, and a long path that leads underground. And if you look through the cracks in the gate, you can still see the copper coils, still humming. Movie camera, this is Black Cash. We don't just tell stories. We restore what they tried to delete. Subscribe before they recompile your memory too.